Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio, and it is February 8th, 2024. Thanks for being with us today, and I hope you're having a good day so far. It's 9 in the morning here in the great state of Maine, and we're going to be heading down to nearby. That's where the cell phone is anyway, to near Atlanta, Georgia, to talk to Will Redding. And Will is the managing director of a company called ProCare Therapy, which provides staffing services in specialized areas for schools pre-K-12. And Will has some great information on which states have the highest needs these days and other such facts. He's got some great statistics, and he's going to give us his insights on what's going on in this area, which is a challenge for every school district in pre-K-12. Now, let me clear my throat, and I will be right back. Pardon me for coughing in your ear. I tried to make it a little bit less so. All right. Before I bring Will on, I just want you to know we're going to archive the show over at our home website, which is the home website of our American Consortium for Equity in Education. That's over at ace-ed.org, ace-ed.org. Everything we do over there is free for all of you. Check out our magazine, our online journal, which is called Equity and Access, Pre-K-12. You'll enjoy it. All of our podcasts are over there. You just click on whatever interests you and listen away, plus a ton of other information, particularly about our equity awards in pre-K-12. And you might want to think about nominating even yourself, your colleagues, your school, people you work with, vendors, et cetera, et cetera. So please check it all out. It's over ace-ed.org. And without further ado, let me bring on the one and only Will Redding. And here he is. Hi, Will. It's Larry here.
Hey, Larry. How you doing?
I'm fine. Well, was I right? Are you down in Georgia?
That's correct, yeah. So we're here at Atlanta, Georgia office. We actually look out and see the Braves Stadium right behind us. So very cool spot here.
So you're in Milwaukee or Boston. Get it? You're too young. You're too young.
No, definitely not. I'm actually grew up a huge Cubs fan, but hey, being all the way up there in Maine.
So you know.
Being up there in Maine. I hope the weather's good for you. We'll almost hit 60 degrees today.
Yeah, actually, we hit 40 yesterday, which is extremely warm for us. Yeah, and of course we are snow covered. I live in southern Maine, but of course we are snow covered. But the streets aren't or anything like that, just the lawns and all that sort of stuff. But it was amazing to have 40-degree weather yesterday, I got to tell you. Are you from Chicago?
No, so family is from basically all around the Indianapolis area, southern Indianapolis, as well as a little bit on the northern side. My dad, I think going out through high school, he had a deal with his I think it's like sixth period teacher in social studies that if he got his work done, he could jet out early, jump on the train, and get to a day game at Wrigley. So That's just how he was brought up. But I love going there.
I am impressed. I lived in Chicago for many, many years, and I am impressed with that. Okay, I used to live close enough to the stadium to Wrigley when these were all day games, of course. At 1 o'clock, I could decide, I'm going to go to the game, and I would get on the subway, and get 5 steps down, and I was right there at Wrigley, and it was a great way to see ball games. But
100%, nothing better.
That's good stuff. And well, you're stuck with Atlanta now. That's okay. That's good. How the Falcons? No, I'm just kidding. You forget it. Yeah, we won't get into that.
Not great.
Yeah, it wasn't a good Super Bowl for you guys. We played years ago, whatever it was. Okay, do you remember that?
No, I do. Yeah. So, not a Falcons guy either. I'm a Colts guy.
All right. There you go. Yeah, Indianapolis. That makes sense. Okay, very good. We're getting here. Okay, this is good stuff, Will. Okay. Well, let's talk about education. The changes
for sure.
Sports. Yeah, all day. All right. I got to ask. Okay, and I want to start here. Will, you're managing director of ProCare Therapy. All right. So basically, you're the boss. Let's put it that way. Okay. And tell us about whatever your title is. You're the boss. Okay. So tell us about the company. Okay, and brag a little, do whatever you want to do, how you work, all that sort of stuff, and then we'll get into all these details. But brag away, my friend.
Yeah, of course. So
ProCare Therapy. A lot of educators. Yeah.
Yes, sir. ProCare Therapy. So we help find educators within both general education and special education, and help staff school districts across the nation. To be honest, when I first came in the field, I had no idea it even existed. But one of the coolest things is when I started interviewing and I got into this field, I realized, like, hey, this is a sales company, but we're not pushing a product here. Like, we get to help we get to connect and build relationships with schools and with these educators and help them find positions and careers that they want to be in. And it's one of the coolest feelings to know that, yes, we're a sales company, but our impact goes much farther than that. It's not a product. Our product is people. And it's one of the coolest fields to be in. It's awesome to see that we can have an impact on not only a person finding a new job, but then that affects thousands of students across the United States that are able to now get serviced by those individuals. And, starting out, I want to say 5-6 years ago, ProCare Therapy had around 40 different account executives, and now we're pushing 300. Our parent company, Soliant, I think we had around 400, 500 individuals, and now we're pushing 1,500. But the market's begging us to grow. This national teaching shortage that we're going to get into, it's a big deal, and we're here to try and help alleviate as much as we possibly can, and just be another player that helps find these educators to put in the schools realm.
It is so darn important. I know you heard me say we're actually the American, although Education Talk Radio is our voice, that's where we are now. We're the American Consortium for Equity in Education. And all the work that you do, all right, is extremely important in terms of equity. All right. And if you go, for example, I'll go in my state, Northern Maine, okay, is pretty sparse people-wise. They're good people, but it's very sparse. It's hard to find professionals in all the fields you need. And those kids, okay, need good teachers, need good speech-language therapists, need good counselors, et cetera, right down the list, okay, et cetera, et cetera. It's extremely hard to find them. Okay, and especially hard to find them in, if I may, rural areas. But it's hard everywhere. We're going to talk about that with you. And it really boils down to an equity thing. Okay, and that's what I love. And I work with other staffing companies as well. Yours is excellent, and we're going to hear more about it. Okay, but the fact is the staffing companies are doing a very important job. They're providing equity to people who didn't need it. And for years, they could not find the right people. There are little towns in North Dakota and every state of the country that need people. And that's why I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. And as I talk to people in the staffing industry, they all say the same thing, Will, how glad they are to be in the industry and really helping kids. It's that important. And helping the school districts, I might add, obviously helping the teachers as well, because when you get the right staffing in there, especially support staff, okay, it makes it a lot easier on the teachers, et cetera. So this stuff, how long have you been doing this, Will?
So I'm going on, it'll be 6 years in June this summer.
Cool. Congratulations. That's just great. Okay, and how long has ProCare Therapy been around as part of Soliant?
So I want to say ProCare Therapy was actually acquired through Soliant in the early mid-2000s. Soliant's been around since 1992, but ProCare came on a little bit after that. And it's funny how that story went. I think ProCare Therapy kind of came in with whenever they acquired them. We were going after a company called Bilingual Therapies, and that was like the crown jewel of it. ProCare Therapy was thrown in as like, oh, hey, they specialize in, SLPs, OTs, and PTs and things of that nature. And then here we are now where ProCare Therapy ended up being the crown jewel of what was acquired. So it's cool to see how that transpired back then.
Well, it's just a good little story right there. I really like that. Okay, so you guys have information, Will, and I know this on the states, and these are interesting statistics because I was using Maine, North Dakota, and I may be right. I don't know, but I always feel you can go anywhere. Another place is Hawaii, the most beautiful place in the universe.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and they can't find people. So talk about. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable just living over there, so you have to talk about this. Okay, states with the highest rates, and you can do this any way you want. We can talk teacher shortage, support staff, et cetera, et cetera. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, based on we have some numbers around the top 10 teacher shortage states, and this basically pulls like enrolled students per one employed teacher, so it gives like a ratio of what that might look like. So here, like the top 10, we had Nevada, Utah, California, Michigan, Arizona, Idaho, Florida, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska. If you actually look into those, kind of what you said in Maine, but a lot of these states, give California, for example. When people think of California, they think of the bigger cities within California. What people don't think about is the amount of rural areas that California has that still have school districts, that still have people that live out there, that have students that need to get service. Yet it's so hard geographically to maybe find that school professional to get a job out there. And something that we can help with that is we help with relocating people. We help with travel positions. We get people right out of school and say, hey, do you want to go here and be an impactful person to help this school district that we can't find services for? So within a lot of these states, we could go over yes, does a geographic footprint have a big reason why they probably are where they are? 100%. But there are other factors that come in to play here through budget cuts, teacher cuts, high turnover within your first years of teaching, all kinds of stuff. And we all know a teacher shortage that we're facing also breeds an even further teacher shortage. And what I mean by that is the teachers that are left behind, that are still in there, are dealing with higher caseloads, are dealing with higher just workloads in general, which throughout their day, for the most part, is going to provide more time for direct therapies or direct duties. Therefore, when they're in the classroom, all of their time is spent obviously giving everything they possibly can to their students. Their job doesn't stop there. They then have to go home and go over report writing. They have to communicate with their colleagues, teachers, SLPs, OTs, psychs, anybody that's on the current IEP for the student. They have to communicate with parents. They have to set up lesson planning. They have to grade. There's so much that is even done outside the classroom. And all of this kind of thrown into one is a big reason why we're seeing the shortage that we're seeing.
And with ProCare, excuse me, I don't know why my throat's like this morning. I live in Maine, that's why. Okay, but it's winter, that's why. Okay, but no, seriously, are you when ProCare goes in, and particularly your division, and I don't know how it's all set up, but are you looking for? Because you keep using the word teachers, and I keep using the word support staff. And I went over to ProCare's website today, and the jobs I see here on this purple board are kind of support staff, and I see one that says general education. So when ProCare works, are they particularly looking for general ed teachers, whatever they may be, just a teacher, okay, not just a teacher, but a teacher, or are they looking for the support staff, the sign language interpreter, the physical therapist, the school social worker? You can go right down a whole list here. Okay, where's your sweet spot, if there is one?
So when we first started, our sweet spot was the reason we have therapy on our name. It was our therapist. So it was our speech language pathologist. It was our physical therapist. It was our occupational therapist. That was kind of how we got into the space. But after we got into space, we realized there was so much more in school that we could help through general education staffing, whether that be through special education staffing, support staff through interpreters, teachers of the visually impaired, school psychologists, or even now where we're seeing such a large growth in need of paraprofessionals or one-on-one nurses to be paired within students to help them get through, different classes throughout the day due to, different behavioral movements throughout where we're seeing a lot in students nowadays. So it's grown over time. It didn't originally start out that way, but we are here to help a school district find a professional, an educator in any way that we possibly can.
Yeah, by the way, everybody, if you're listening, you can see I have it linked here. If you want to check out the website, it's really interesting. Will, I want you to do me a favor. Go over that list of where the need is greatest, the states where the need is greatest, okay, and how recent is that? And go over it a little bit slower so people can hear that. I thought it was kind of interesting, but I couldn't get it all down when you said it the first time. Just go over it a little slower, please.
Yeah, no, of course. So the top 10 states with teacher shortages. So we had Nevada that has a ratio of, it looks like 24 students per one employed teacher. And then we got Utah. We have that's 22 students per one employed teacher. California, same, that's actually 1 to 21. Michigan, 1 to 21. We got Arizona at 1 to 21. Idaho at 1 to 20. Florida at 1 to 20. Washington 1 to 19. Oregon 1 to 19.
Stop right there. When you say that, are you saying there's one general ed teacher for every 22 students? Is that what that means as an example?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Now I have to ask a funny question. Is that bad or good?
So it really depends on it depends on the classroom. There's so much variety in there. So obviously, if it's a 1 to 20 and it's strictly a general education classroom that might not have different students that need a little bit more support, it's probably not as hard, I guess, for the teacher through classroom management. But at the same time, if you have different students in there that might need a little bit more support and you're the only teacher there and you don't have a co-teacher, you don't have a paraprofessional, you don't have more support to help you, it's going to be tough. Yeah, so it really just depends on the environment that you're in.
So as you go down this list, okay, and I'm just curious about this. Does it ever get to a point like where it's one teacher for 30 or one teacher for 40 or anything like that?
In some places, yeah, I would imagine so. This is more just averages. So obviously, if in Nevada, if it's 24, there's going to be numbers that's bringing that number up, and there's going to be numbers that's bringing that down to the average that we are putting that we're seeing here. But yes, now there are states that have regulations out there that like, hey, like a caseload can't exceed this number, which obviously is put into place to help. But no, my wife's a teacher. She's an elementary education teacher.
Nice.
Been a teacher for she's in her 6th year, and
nice.
her
Thank
caseload.
That's good. Thank her.
Yeah, no, of course. What I see that she does, it's insane. What a teacher! Everything that they have to do to prepare, but man, they have an extreme passion for it, and they're you got to be able to help these students and not the workload that's put on you. But their room, the amount of students they have, it fluctuates throughout the year. But I mean, she's had years where she's had 18. She's had years where she's had 28. So it just all depends on how many students they have coming in or leaving, or what the grade level under you looks like, and all kinds of stuff.
You know, I'll tell you a funny story. You can tell your wife this, and everybody listening. I've said it a couple of times before. Okay, when I was a kid in elementary school in the 1950s, all right, my teacher decided each of us would play when she was teaching U.S. geography. You're going to love this. We were a state. I mean, I was the state of Louisiana as an example, and she would make up human maps. You know, we'd stand next to each other. We were a bordering state, that kind of a thing. And I remember, and when I was a kid, this is just before Alaska and Hawaii. I'm sharing my age here. Okay, became states. Okay, so there were 48 states, 48 stars on the flag. All right. There were so many kids in the class that my teacher, this is in Philadelphia public schools, my teacher had to assign one kid Alaska and one kid Hawaii. Because she had, tell your wife this, she had, I never realized that till I was older, 50 kids in the class. 50 kids.
That is just insane to me.
Okay.
Kudos to your teacher
nuts?
for.
Is that nuts?
I think that's very high, especially when your teacher is having to engage with all the students in a singular classroom. When, like, say, an SLP.
Now, keep in mind, okay, there was no such thing as, in those days, speech language pathologists, school psychologists. Special ed hadn't been invented yet. Okay, there wasn't an occupational therapist or a physical therapist within the next 45 miles of my school.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And there were certainly no kids who were visually or hard of hearing impaired. And that was all wrong. Everything about when I was in elementary school was wrong. Okay, but that's the way it was. You know, and I always think of that as we talk about shortages today and the needs we have today. Okay, I go back and think about that. Man, how did we all ever learn? How did they all ever teach? Who the hell knows? Way back when. Unbelievable. and this is Philadelphia public schools. I'm not talking about a one-room schoolhouse in 1843.
Oh no,
Okay,
definitely
yeah,
not. Yeah.
I'm a little younger. Okay, but it's just so funny, and the needs today have changed so much, and if we don't get these needs together and get the right teachers in there, okay, which brings me up with another question about ProCare. Are you guys looking to literally place a teacher physically there, or do you work a lot with teletherapy, that type of stuff, as you work with all the therapists, etc., and the specialized teachers? How's that work?
Yeah. No. So
Okay. Yeah.
we do both. We have a teletherapy platform that we started. I want to say it was back in like 2015. Just as we were trying to lean into the future, be innovative with our teletherapy platform on how caseloads are managed from a work from home model, because that's going to attract more teachers to stay within the education field and still be able to provide services to students all across the United States. Now, we understand there are some tough aspects depending on the caseload. If it's pre-K students, it's tough to maybe keep them engaged on a screen or keep them. You're going to need more support staff on site to be able to help with that. But we've seen it work in
100%.
so many different areas through that teletherapy platform. But we're also here to provide someone on site as well. So we do both. We're here to help in any way we possibly can to give these students the services that they need and that they deserve.
And I just want to ask you, I'm going to just pick California, okay? California is a beautiful state, okay? They had lousy weather this week, but 99% of the time it's a beautiful state, okay?
Yes, sir.
And, and it's huge, and they have real rural areas, especially up north, out in the eastern California, et cetera. They need people. How are we doing? And how do you guys do in terms of finding people, educators of all sorts and varieties, to work in those rural areas and literally move there? How are we doing on that? That's very interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say ProCare Therapy. I mean, California, I think, is our number one state. I think that's where we do our best in. Now, at the same time, that's just with the amount of school districts that we work with, the amount of candidates that we have placed there. But it's a huge area. I think there's a stat out there that we might service 10,000 different candidates out there currently on assignment, but in reality, it's like we're only able to service that's almost less than 2% of the school districts even out there. So though it's huge for us, and we find a lot of success in finding individuals to go work out there, California it's a monster. It's huge. So, but that just shows us that we need to go even deeper. We need to specialize even more. Like we are, one of our biggest priorities going into 2024 is how can we cast a wider net on our geographical footprint? How can we find more AEs contact certain areas that might not be contacted as much? How can we help these rural districts more? How can we pull from these bigger cities to make sure that they're not dominating the education market? How can we get that person out to the rural area? We've found a lot of success in that. We've also found a lot of challenges in that. It's tough to talk to someone and be like, hey, can you move outside of San Francisco? Can you get out to more of a rural area? Can you move to, I don't know, can you go from Sacramento to out to northern or Wheatland, California? Can you go to Sister Quo? Can you go to Northern California? There's different areas that have a high need that helps in the teletherapy world, where we can push those services to help, find individuals that might be in these popular areas, still give the services. Yeah. But at the same time, we're doing our best to relocate them, provide different reimbursements to get them out there where we can be a service to.
It's so complicated these days, and so much stuff. What do you find? This is an interesting question. What do you find draws a teacher these days? And this is interesting, post-pandemic. I'm just going to use this as an example to a rural area. Okay, I have to say a rural area, if I may. I'm not sure of this. Usually, I can only speak for here. Usually has slightly lower salaries. Okay, the tax bases are usually a little bit less. That's the reason for that. Okay, which isn't right, but that's the way it is. So, how do you draw somebody out there to a rural area? And I love this because I live in kind of although I'm 45 minutes from Portland, where I live is fairly rural. It's interesting.
Yeah, so I remember when we bring in different account executives to train, and we're talking about going over like salaries or hourly rates. Usually, people are so scared to talk about money because half the time when jumping on a call with somebody, they're like, oh, the reason they're leaving their job is because of money. When 90% of the time, it's not that. It's very much the support that they have around them, the atmosphere that they're in, the people that they work with, the caseload size, the workload, the voice that needs to be heard. Like, all of those play a role. And more than not, if I'm able to get someone on the phone and they're in like a huge district and I can relocate them to a rural one, half the sell is, hey, it's going to be smaller. You're going to have more of a tight-knit family feel. So I'm able to
have less bureaucracy. That's one thing. I can tell you that much. Yeah.
Oh, the bigger you get, I mean,
please,
you're cutting through this red tape, to cut through the next red tape, to cut through the next red tape, and then you're back at the red tape that you cut the first time. So it's tough, but we found a lot that money is not necessarily the driving force. Yes, it plays a massive role. Do I think teachers should be paid more? Yes, they should.
Oh, of course.
But at the same time, there are so many different aspects of that job that play a role in whether someone wants to be there or not.
It's very involved. And it's very cool. It's hard to recruit people. It really is. I'm on your website, as I mentioned. Okay, it's a nice website, by the way, everybody. It's ProCareTherapy.com, and they got a lot of information here. All right, and one of the things they have, I'm just looking at this list, is top school jobs, which probably means these are where the biggest shortages are, I would think. Okay, and am I right? I'm pretty sure that's what the category means. Okay, thank you. So, all right, I want to go down this list. Speech language pathology is one of the hardest to find these days.
Yes, as of right now, it 100% is. It's such a specialty field where
Good field.
I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but what we've seen across the years is there's just less individuals are going into speech language programs in college to then graduate and obviously be in the field where we can find them positions. So it's getting tougher and tougher to find, but they're also like, that's the best one. That's our bread and butter. Like SLPs, that's where we started. That was the first discipline that we really got into. And we need to go after the toughest positions to fill because that's where we can provide value to these school districts, and we understand that.
Absolutely. Okay, and this is very, very interesting to me. The other thing is, and I don't understand, a school occupational therapist. I know what an OT is. What's a COTA? COTA.
So that is a certified occupational therapist assistant.
A COTA
is there.
Thank you.
They need to be supervised by the OT, but they're there to help a lot with the daily activities as long as they have that supervision. They're not the person that gets to, sign off any reports, IEPs, anything like that, but they can help with the daily items that an OT would have to, the duties that they would have to provide.
Yeah, and then just going down this list, I find it very interesting, and I found this one interesting. And again, it's a shortage that always surprised me: is school nursing. Do we have enough school nurses these days? It's a little further down on the list, but
so that's one that it's crazy. It really depends on. I think there's more of a need depending on where you're at in the United States. It's very interesting. I would like to maybe even dive a little bit deeper into that, just because, like growing up, I had in Tennessee. I went to school originally in Tennessee. We had a school nurse in every school building that I was in. Yeah. Then I moved to Georgia, and it was less prevalent. Like I didn't see it as much. And then now being in this space, it's like pockets of the United States, depending on where you go to school. Like they're big in hey, we need to have a lot of either one-on-one nurses, or we need to have a school nurse on site. And then other schools, you don't necessarily need that, and that might just be based on the nurse, how many can they post for nursing? They might have more nurses around them depending on the area they're in versus others, obviously. But I mean, it's always I've always been very interested in why do some schools have more of a need versus others. And obviously, pandemic 2020 came. We were staffing a lot for school nurses just to test people for COVID coming into our hold a monitor to see did someone have a fever? Did someone not? Things of that nature. So we saw a huge rush in the school nurse field within our area just because they needed them. Right? Then they're coming out of that. Obviously, that actually helped it a little bit.
You broke up a little bit at the end there. Will, do you want to say what you just said just at the very end?
Oh, yeah, sure. I was just talking
Yeah.
about how, so going into COVID, there was a huge need for nurses across all school districts in the United States. They played a pivotal role in making sure that their staff was healthy, they were showing symptoms, things of that nature. Same with their students, of course. So,
right.
But coming out of COVID, that ice cube has melted here recently.
It's just the whole thing is so interesting, and school districts run so many functions these days, so much more than I was a kid, if I may. All right, and I got to tell you, it's so good we have companies like yours working with these school districts because they can't do it themselves. They got enough on their plates. Okay.
Oh no, for sure.
They can't find these people, and it's just so important you do this. Will, we're going to stay in touch a little bit. Okay, I'm going to find out more about what you do and all that sort of stuff. So I will be in touch. Is that okay? Don't call me sir. You become very Southern. You're calling me sir. That's what my Southern friends always call me.
Okay.
Larry. Right. That's true. Everybody I talk to down south, and people are so polite down there, and it's ingrained into the Southern culture. I'm always sir. Okay, but I am not knighted. Call me Larry. Okay, fair enough.
Yes, Larry. I can do that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Well, this is great to know you. Thank you so much. Good insights here.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll do more. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
I'm losing you, Will. For some reason, it's breaking up, so thank you. Okay, bye-bye. Sorry, I was hearing the click at the end. I lost it all. Okay, Will Redding, everybody's managing director of ProCare Therapy. It's linked here. We'll archive over at ace-ed.org. My name's Larry Jacobs. Thanks for listening.